Hello and welcome to Black Cats Chat, the international fans podcast for Sunderland AFC. My name is Lee Thurkel. I'm from the Bilbao Black Cats, and today we had a 3 o'clock kickoff, which is a rarity for Sunderland on a Sunday. 3 o'clock against Aston Villa, 1-1, a good for draw. Two of our guests today had an early start because they're on the other side of the Atlantic in North America. First of all, we've got Jonathan Williams in Edmonton, Canada from SAFC NASA. Jonathan, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. Did you have a little siesta after the match?
No. I got up just before and watched the first half an hour or so in bed, and then got out of bed and got breakfast at halftime. So yeah.
Yeah, because it must have been about 7 o'clock start for you, 8 o'clock?
Yeah, it was 7 a.m. for me to start. And then so it was early, but it wasn't like 5:30 in the morning as some of those games were last year in the championship.
Yeah, well, it is a Sunday as well, so it is tough. Jonathan, you do also, I'm going to give you a shout out for your podcast because you do a Welsh History Podcast. Do you want to give us a bit of a bump for that?
Sure. I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm at Welsh History Podcast. If you are looking for it, you can find it on all your favorite podcasting feeds, or if for YouTube, you go YouTube at Welsh History Podcast. You'll find it there. Thanks.
Good stuff. And our second guest, he had to get up an hour earlier because he's further down the coast. Jesse Burch, he's in Los Angeles. He's our resident actor. Jesse, it was what, 6 o'clock start for you?
6 a.m. and I went to bed about 1 because I had to pick my son up from the airport. He was on a very delayed flight from Dublin because they had that cyber attack yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
And yeah, so it slowed things down. I think he was about 5 or 6 hours delayed. So
it wasn't you just trying to cancel all the flights, was it? Just so you can stay there so you can watch the match?
No.
But anyway, Jesse, we did say that you are an actor, right? So you've done voice acting, you've done film series. I mean, I told my students about it because I teach teenagers English to teenagers. And I told them about the episode that you were in of Just Add Magic, and you played the teacher, Mr. Edmonds. Mm-hmm. And they went, oh, yeah, I remember that guy. So I was kind of cool and relevant for 15 minutes, then they went back to normal and novelty went off, and then
I'm happy to help. I for what it's worth, I think you're cool and relevant just on your own. So
yeah. And then Jesse, while I was looking, I've got to show this. I found a TV commercial.
Oh my goodness!
I don't know if I've done it right. I found it on YouTube. TV commercial. Let me see if I can do this.
I can't wait to see what you're pulling up here. I have no idea.
Yeah, maybe you don't know it's on YouTube, but I don't know. Maybe you still get royalties for it. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know if I do. Maybe I do.
So it's a Nike soap opera commercial starring Jesse Burch. Do you remember this one?
Oh yeah. So, I have a funny story about this one. Right there, I
never play past 7.
product shot.
You never run past 82nd.
Come on then. Tell us the story behind that one.
First of all, I got to the audition. The audition was outside at a park, and I said, "Listen, I don't play basketball at all. I'm a terrible basketball player. I don't." And they're like, "Oh, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care." I said, "Okay, but really, I don't play any basketball. I don't know I sort of know the rules, but I don't really." They said, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." Got a call back, and I said, "Hey, I don't play basketball. All right." And so I got the job. I got to the set, and they had a basketball coordinator there telling us how to sort of, and he's like, "So," and the director said, "So don't you play basketball?" And I said, "Guys, I've said all along I don't play any basketball. And if you note at the very, very beginning, I receive the ball and immediately travel because I pivot I raise my left foot and pivot." And the guys were like, "Hey, buddy, you just traveled right there." And I'm like, "I don't know how to do this. I told you. It was, yeah. Oh, and the girl that I was playing opposite, she had gotten beaten up by a gang member earlier that day. She was in Venice, and this this female gang member ran over her foot with her bicycle, and she was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And the girl was like, "Bitch, I'll beat you up." And she like took a swing and hit her. And so when she got to set, she was super swollen. It was a weird night.
Yeah.
It was a weird night.
And obviously you didn't get the part for the sequel of White Men Can't Jump replacing Woody Harrelson, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
That's funny that you found that. I don't know how did you find that?
I just typed in Jesse Burch on YouTube, and I saw an interview with you and some German guy. I think I don't know if it was a German guy or somebody during COVID.
God.
You did one of that. There's one of you on there, and there's a couple of video game stuff I think as well. So yeah. We know.
Okay.
Big Brother's watching, Jesse. Big Brother's watching.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. That's hysterical that you found that. I am very impressed.
I'll send you the link. You might still get royalties for it. Eh? If,
I'd like
20
to know.
20 cents every play that you get on YouTube.
I'll take those. Yeah. I need them. I need every cent I get.
Anyway, on to today's match then. So, Jonathan,
right.
a 1-1 draw at home to Aston Villa. I mean, listen, at the end of the game, we'll take it because the situations that happened during the game. But before the game, you're thinking it's another home game. We've won 2 out of 2 so far. Aston Villa have had a very, very bad start to the season. So how did you kind of feel pre-match?
For me, I was quietly confident that we could snatch a win. I was pretty sure that I've been convinced from the beginning that our home form was going to be the key to this whole thing anyway. And I really thought once I watched the West Ham game that we were on a pretty good trajectory. And yeah, it didn't get as good after that, but you like I watched as a comparison, I watched the Brighton game yesterday, and the Brighton game was you're listening for the crowd and you're hardly hearing anything. And the Sunderland game was like the exact opposite. It was always noisy. There was always something going on. So you can think how intimidating that can be, even to professionals who played against teams like this before. And I just felt pretty confident that we get something. And then, of course, the red card comes in and throws all of that expectation out of whack. And then you're just like, okay, let's hope we get something out of this rather than we're definitely going to get something out of this.
Yeah. And then, obviously, Jesse, for the second week in a row, we've been dealt a huge blow in the build-up because a midfielder gets ruled out. Last week it was Enzo Lafay. This week it was Habib Diarra. I mean, he's our most expensive sign. So when you lose a player of 30 million, you lose a lot of quality and energy, in that middle of the pitch.
Yeah, but I was sorry for Riggy because I thought he started pretty brightly. He was rising to the occasion, I thought. And, obviously Diarra has been a really pivotal player for us over the course of these first few games. But, I was sorry. We started very brightly. Again, one of the things that I really like about this squad is every time we lose the ball, we swarm to get it back. We force it back. And it's really impressive. And Ronaldo's red card was, it's frustrating. I don't know any player in the entire world who would react coolly to being fouled off the ball as badly as Cash did. It was Cash, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and and he doesn't even pick up a yellow card for that, which I thought was total bullshit. But I think Riggy made a case for maybe made a case for himself. I don't know. He's not going to start before Diarra though.
No, not absolutely not.
That's too bad though for him. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're going to get onto the send off in a minute, but before that, the first 25 minutes. But the first 25 minutes, Jonathan. I mean, a stat came up on the stream I was watching saying that Morgan Rogers was their most dangerous player in the attacking third, but he had the fewest touches on the pitch at that moment. So it just showed that we completely nullified their threat.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, even when we went down to 10, not to jump ahead or anything, it was ages before they even got a shot on goal. Like we did a very, very good job of being our formation was great. The planning in advance was perfect for dealing with Villa's problems. And Villa themselves, of course, have been struggling scoring. So as long as you can continue to place that doubt in their head, it's going to be even more difficult for them to get off get themselves in a position where they're scoring. They're not doing the basic things of just taking shots when they're close. They're fundamentally looking for that perfect goal, right? And I think that was their problem. Like their goal comes out of not being a perfect goal. But yeah, going back to the first 25 minutes, I think my conclusion was, at least at the beginning, is that we looked like the better side. We looked like we were more likely to score. I thought we were just handling them quite easily for the most part. And it wasn't until we went down to 10 that we sort of got penned in for a bit. Like, I really think we were very effective in the beginning, getting the ball forward. We were doing things we weren't doing at the beginning, because if you remember, at the beginning, it was hard to get the ball up to the forwards, and we would struggle a bit making that connection because we didn't have enough people forward. And I noticed that with the beginning of this one, we were better at delivery, and we weren't trying to go for deep long balls all the time. Of course, we did later, but that was for circumstances. But I think in the beginning, you notice it was a little bit more deliberate and a little less hit and hope, I guess would be my way of describing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no, I think that's a good summary. Jesse, then obviously the sending off happens after 33 minutes.
Yeah, 33.
It was like completely out of the blue, because it wasn't really on camera, wasn't it? It was off camera, and all of a sudden, like, Matty Cash is holding his knackers as if he's being shot by a sniper, and then the ref just, like, I don't know, the ref takes his time and then brandishes a red card. But for me, I don't know, if the ref was actually seeing it happening as the play was going on, or if it's just had a word with the linesman. I mean, wouldn't it be better to leave it to VAR to decide? Because for me, I think if VAR looks at that, they might just say, yeah, it's a little coming together. He lifts his leg up, but there's no real kind of violent thrust of his leg and his knackers for that to be called violent conduct. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you do something like that and a player reacts in that way, it's always the reaction that's going to get you sent off, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, that's the unfortunate thing. I don't think, like I said, I don't think any player would do anything different, because he was cut down off the ball. It was a late, ugly challenge on the part of Cash, and I'm not surprised that Reinildo did it, but I think anytime you're studs up on somebody's on somebody's groin, it's not going to go well. I thought they did consult VAR on it, but maybe I was wrong. And so
no, they did.
Yeah, and so but otherwise, I don't think the ref would have seen it. In the days before VAR, I think this would have just gone and nobody would have known, unless the linesman picked it up. But it was soft, and the fact that he didn't give a yellow card to Cash is just total shit. That was the only real reffing decision in the game that really, really irked me. But
yeah,
it did change the game. I mean, but it's interesting. We didn't, even though, obviously we had to pull Riggy off and bring on Ballard. That's fine. I didn't find that we really changed obviously we changed the setup, but I didn't get the sense that we changed our game plan as drastically as maybe we would have under a different coach in a different season, because we were still hustling for every ball. We were still scrambling to get the ball back. We were still looking for good passes, intelligent play to move the ball up the pitch. And I was just really, really impressed, honestly.
No, I think the fact that he left Enzo Lafay on the pitch as well and took Rig off suggests that he didn't want to kind of drift too much away from that style of play, because if you take off Lafay, you're losing one of our most creative outlets.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Jonathan, your view on the red card?
Well, I mean, the only thing I would add to the discussion, I guess, is the problem we've got a little bit is sometimes I think it's reputation, and this is a player who's got a reputation for being kind of a bit of a, one of these people who will poke the edge of the line quite frequently. I mean, he got yellow cards earlier for similar situations. I think he's been really, really great. He's one of our better defenders. It's just the problem is that he is a bit hot-headed, and sometimes that will catch you out. And unfortunately for him, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, and there's no reason not to encourage that. It's just you're going to have to deal with the good and the bad with that, right? Like, he's going to get a yellow card at a bad point. He's going to get a penalty called like he did the other day.
Just as a side note, it was maybe the 10th minute, and he took off with the ball and ran all the way up the pitch. And I don't know if you saw this. I was like, Jesus Christ, that guy's fast. He is fast with the ball. Like he has some serious pace, and I think he scared them up the left. It was really impressive. So I look forward to him coming back soon.
Yeah, no, and like obviously seeing where he came from Atletico Madrid with Diego Simeone, so you can kind of understand where he gets that dirty side from. I mean, he's given away a penalty and got sent off in 5 games. So, but as you said, like he is like a valuable asset to our team. But yeah, the red card did come, and like everyone looked a bit surprised. Even Lebris said, "We respect the decision. It's a possible red card," but I think he's kind of thinking as well that Cash has been a bit overreacting, and you know what I mean. If he'd have caught him on his knackers like good and proper, then he'd know about it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was more like when you see the way his foot moves, it's more like he kind of towed in after he'd been kind of already moving. His feet were coming up anyway, and then he just kind of gave it one of those rather than like a full.
It's not like a full thrust, isn't it? He hasn't do you know what I mean? He hasn't gone to kick him. It's just, he's left his legs there, and he's kind of gone slightly. Is that violent conduct? Yeah, it's reactive.
It's not like he came in, studs up on a challenge. It's reactive. He kicked out because the guy tackled him poorly.
Yeah. So. And then obviously, so Lafitte comes off. The return of Dan Ballard, which was nice to see. Now, I couldn't work out the formation we went to. Was it like a 4-5 or a 5-3-1 or a?
That's what I thought.
4-4-1.
Yeah,
because I don't know if. Go on.
They had 5 at the back, so they had the 2 wingers, and then they had the 3 at the back, and then they had the 3 midfielders, and they had the 1 forward, right? So I think that's what they were doing was 5-3-1.
Yeah.
Because that allowed them the ability to use the wingers as basically being kind of moving midfielders as well when they needed them to.
Yeah.
That was kind of the impression I got from what they were saying on the broadcast plus watching it live.
Or did one of the center backs move to sort of a defensive midfield position as a sort of a triangle? It's hard to tell.
I don't know, but I thought it was very nice to see like Mukiele, Ballard, and Alderete on the pitch because I don't think like with those 3 I don't think there are many partnerships better than that in the Premier League. Like, I think that's very strong, isn't it?
All 3 are beasts.
Yeah.
Mukiele in particular had a phenomenal game.
Yeah, and and they're all very tall too, which helps as well. So you can get up for those set pieces, which became huge later.
Sure.
Yeah, Jesse, you mentioned before Riggy, he started and he deserved his chance, but he looked good, didn't he, when he came off? You could see, like, 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
You get your first chance in the Premier League in the starting 11, and all of a sudden, after 33 minutes, you're coming off, and you just see, like, he looked like, I know, he looked like the boy who had to go inside because it's end of playtime, doesn't it? Like,
yes. I mean, he looked like he was near tears. He was so frustrated, and I don't blame him. I mean, he's a local lad. It was great when he was walking out with his little the little kid mascots. One of the kids, as they were walking out, the kid goes, "Come on!" And Rig, I remember Rig like kind of looked at him and smiled, and he kind of nodded. Like I was like, "Yeah, come on, this means a lot to him," and it was lovely. And I was really disappointed for him, but you don't bring anybody else off, unfortunately, in that circumstance.
Yeah.
It's a longer conversation, but it's a ruthlessness that we have to have now if we're gonna survive.
Yeah,
certain players we're not going to see again probably playing for us, just because of that.
We're going to get onto that later. Actually, it's one of the talking points later on about Lebris's handling and man management and comments that he made pre-match. But Jonathan, Robin Roos was at it again. He made a good double save in the first half, although the second shot was offside. Another comfortable game for him. Obviously, we'll come on to the goal later. He could have done better. But in the first half, there was an interesting... I think it was the first half. No, it was the second half, sorry. It was the second half when we had a corner and Ballard was just getting tugged all over. The ball comes in, the referee stops it, gives a yellow card to their player, but doesn't give a foul.
Yeah, that was very frustrating. That actually, to me, was more annoying than the red card because I was like they were saying, it's like, how can it be both? It can't you can actually see Ballard saying, "How can it be a yellow card and not be a foul? Like it doesn't make any sense." So it's the somewhat illogical tendencies of the way they give out cards and spot fouls and all sorts of weird stuff because things will go on and you'll be like, I don't understand how that's a foul, but this isn't, and it's typical referee logic, I guess is how I would describe it. But and we saw a lot more of that further down the leagues, but it's still very much there, and it's very frustrating to watch them kind of do that because you're like, you really you watch them basically do everything they can to stop him from getting in the way because they know he's going to be the one they're targeting. And so you've got to call that. You can't sit there and say, well, da da da. It's got to be called.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Jesse, in that first half as well, another referee decision that went against us was like actually the pie guy, as I call him, John McGinn for Aston Villa, getting bullied off the ball and elbowed off the ball by Talby, of all people. And the referee gives a foul. I'm thinking that's just never going to happen. Like
I know. I know. It's the bizarre inconsistencies are just, I think, what frustrates everybody. The yellow card in the box, and yet that's not how is that not also a penalty then? I mean, it's just strange.
Yeah.
I'd like clarity, but I guess we never get it.
No,
So.
and there was another decision as well that didn't go our way, which was when Emi Martinez had the ball in his hand and he kind of rolled it out, but he rolled it out into the air and he caught it again.
Yeah.
And according to the rule book, that's also a foul. You're
That's
not allowed
right.
to do that. So I don't know.
That's right.
Inconsistencies again, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, listen, we were happy to go in at half time, Jonathan. No 0-0. But you're thinking that it's going to be a tough second half. It's going to be backs to the walls, but it didn't really turn out to be like that because Villa were pretty shit, weren't they?
They were for a good portion of that game. Yeah, I think the first 5 minutes or so when they did have us hemmed in, I was a little concerned about that because you know that if it's a lot of focus you have to have in those situations, and it just takes one mistake and all of a sudden it's in the back of your net, which one could argue that's kind of what happened with the goal, but by comparison, they didn't do anything. Like when they had the ball, they weren't making attempts they were, again, I go back to what I said earlier. I think they were trying way too hard to get it in a perfect spot. And because they couldn't break us down because our defense was so strong, I think that frustrated them and then they didn't know what to do. And the minute they didn't know what to do, they just went back and forth and pass and try and find some open spot. And we weren't moving. And it was, I just think they didn't know how to deal with the wall. Like I was thinking about it while the game's going on. I'm like, God, we look like Burnley, which was super frustrating when we were dealing with it. And it's like, yeah, now I see why. Because it's just like you have to break teams down. You got to get them moving side to side. You've got to be aggressive in getting in there. And I don't think Villa did that. I don't think Villa did that until they started to change up their team, really. And even then, it didn't really work for them. But
I think when Sancho came on, he caused a couple of problems down the left-hand side against Trey Hume. I think Trey Hume was tiring a bit. Jess, you're gonna have to fill me in on this because at the start of the second half, we had a header off the crossbar, I think, from Alderete. I was making my daughters a sandwich in the kitchen, so I completely missed it. So, fill me in. How was it? Well,
I thought it was in, and I was really disappointed for him because obviously he'd had a great game so far. All our center backs, all of them did. But yeah, it was all from, again, wasn't it? You're going to have to help me, Jonathan, too, because I think it was Xhaka who was sort of helping to set things up, but then also Siddiqui. Didn't he make the initial?
Yeah, wasn't it
cross? Or
yes.
Am I wrong?
I'm trying to remember if that's the right one I'm thinking of, because there was the one where Siddiqui passed it to. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, passed it to Xhaka.
Oh, no, it was a throw in. It started off.
Oh,
with
it was a throw in. Oh, right.
That's right. It was
I'm forgetting
problem. Too. Yeah. So it started with the throw in.
I watched the game. I did.
I did too, but it was early and I was tired.
Yeah,
it started with another Mukiele throw in, and that troubled them all game. And that seems to be something that is really working for us. It came into him. The keeper had to parry it away. It came back out to Alderete on a tiny, I think it was a little jink of a cross from, I think it was Siddiqui that he headed against the crossbar. Really, really good pressure on our part. I just don't think Villa are playing for Emery. I just don't. I think their heads aren't in it, and it showed from the very beginning.
Yeah.
We just have more. It's that kind of that X factor, right? Where I just think we have more hunger to win and to come back from adversity, and but the throw-ins were always a problem for them. Those throw-ins are becoming another sort of secret weapon for us, and Mukiele can really lob them in there.
Yeah, throw-ins, corners, any type of set piece. I mean, any kind of dead ball with like the
all of a
height.
sudden we're dangerous in that regard. Where for a while we weren't. We couldn't seem to pull off a set piece to save our lives, and all of a sudden we're a threat, which is fantastic. That's how it started. Was a throw-in.
Yeah, and then obviously when you got Ballard's going to win the majority of headers there. Yeah. Alderete's good in the air as well. Jonathan, then as the second half kind of grew on a little bit, Isidor had an overhead kick over the bar after the tugging on Ballard and the yellow card for the no penalty, etc. How were you kind of feeling at that point, 66 minutes or 65 minutes just before their goal? Were you kind of thinking, yeah, we've kind of got it under control, we could actually nick this, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, that would my thought process is at that stage is that we have the opportunity here as long as we keep doing set pieces and keep getting it into their end that we could steal one out of them, and then all of a sudden it's all bets are off at that point. It really felt strongly like we were starting to get control of the game after being kind of a little bit on the back foot, I think. And when I mean on the back foot, I mean just because we weren't moving the ball out of our end very quickly. But as soon as we started to move it out and deliver it down and carry it forward a bit more, especially when Talby was coming off the left and just falling down the left-hand side, it was making a massive difference to how much more we were getting done. And you consider we're also on 10 men. We don't have what we were going to go with, and we're dealing with that, and we're suddenly putting them on the back foot. It was quite surprising to me a little bit. But at the same time, I was like, okay, if we grab one, great. If we don't and we just win 0-0, that's fine too. And that was kind of where my thought process was at that point, because it's like, okay, once we're down to this stage, we've got to just keep it going and keep focused. And yeah, I mean, it looked great. For a long time, it looked like we were going to maybe beat them.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse, I suppose that's what almost £200 million worth of investment looks like. No, when you're down to 10 men, you need those kind of players to stand up and dig you out. And I don't think it's any kind of disrespect to the players of last season, but I think we've seen it before. I mean, I remember when Dan Neil got sent off against Middlesbrough, and it was 0-0 at half time, and in the second half they beat us 4-0 because we just collapsed. And there was a risk that might happen today. But I mean, with people like Xhaka in the team, if you've got those guys that keep their cool and keep their composure and they don't get frustrated and don't lose their heads, you've always got a chance.
Yeah, I never had the thought, even after the goal that Villa scored, I never felt we would lose. They were there for the taking the entire time. Their form is poor, second bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still, I think. I don't know if they're up to.
No, they're second bottom because Wolves haven't won a game.
Yeah. And I knew they were there for the taking, and even after they scored, I was like, we will score. We will score. Such is the belief in the team, but also the quality. Again, it's that ruthlessness that we've exhibited in the transfer market that is creating an environment by which we can all, I think, as supporters, start to expect that this team is going to fight to the end, and until the end is it's the motto now,
Yeah,
and it's apt.
I mean, Jonathan, I think in previous decades, as soon as you go out to 10 minutes, basically it's a sign of crumble and fall and let the teams beat the hell out of you and try and keep a damage limitation. But nowadays with tactics so advanced and everything is so compact and formations and shapes, it's never over, isn't it? Because you can see that although you might go down to 10 men, a decision might also go your way later on in the game. And we saw it yesterday with Man United and Chelsea. Chelsea had their keeper sent off, and then obviously later on in the first half, Casemiro gets sent off. Chelsea probably didn't really take advantage of that, but although we didn't get any kind of look from the referee for Villa going out with 10 men, we still stuck in there and we got what we deserved in the end.
Yeah, and I just had a look at it. Villa's actually third on goal differential, third from bottom. Yeah, so for me, when you look at the way, especially Premier League teams work now, just because you get sent, you lose a man, it doesn't immediately, as you said, doesn't immediately put you into danger. It just means that you've got to be a lot more disciplined. And that's the one thing this team is. Like, they've been trained very much by Lebris to be disciplined, to be hold formation, to look for chances on the counterattack, which is why I've been thinking from the beginning that we have an opportunity against even the bigger sides of catching them off guard. Like, I watched the Brighton game, going back to that, against Tottenham, and Tottenham was all over them to start with, and then the next thing you know, it's 2-0. And yeah, they didn't win the game, but that's what you need. You need people that can kind of carry the ball forward really rapidly and make a decision. And that's one thing that this team has, is it has that will and the ability and the talent to do those kind of things. And I think that speaks very well to the recruiting. It speaks very well to the players themselves, and it speaks incredibly well to the management, because I think the from hiring the new set piece coach, which we're seeing benefit of, to going out and working and getting the right kind of management team in place so that you can go out and figure these things out quickly. I think it makes a massive difference to the overall way that the side works and how good it is. And I think we're seeing that consequently playing out on the pitch. I think we're seeing a team that's very disciplined, very controlled, very willing to take pressure, which didn't really work all the time in the championship because the teams in the bottom of the championship were not great. And so they didn't put pressure on you. But in the Premier League, where it's always on, like every team is willing to put pressure on you, it gives you the opportunity to fight back and fire back and be able to come from behind. I'm very curious to see what happens when we play like the higher up teams and kind of see whether or not we can swing with them, because I'm very confident we swing with anybody below sixth place right now. I think we can take any of them on and get a win.
Mm-hmm. No, and you mentioned that, like the discipline aspect as well. I mean, and taking into account that the team is still relatively very young, and it's a new team like that's been put together in the space of a couple of months. So, right, we're going to take a very quick break, but we'll be back to talk about the 2 goals and what comes next. Okay, so we'll see you soon.
Hi, my name is Ekait. I'm from Bilbao. I've been a fan of Sunderland for 5 years. I am a member of Bilbao Black Cats. How are the lads?
Hey, welcome back to part 2. So, Jesse, on to their goal then. I mean, if you're down to 10 men and they get the ball 25, 30 yards out, you're kind of like willing them on to have a shot because then they're far away from goal. But it did seem that there were a lot of bodies in the way. The sun seemed to be shining as well. The ball kind of went pretty straight. It swerved a little bit. Robin Roos seemed to be in a good position, but I don't know, he tried to punch it, doesn't he? And it just doesn't get the contact, does he not?
He put his laces through it. It was just, I mean, I don't think you give him any criticism for not saving that. It was a fantastic shot. I mean, moving on. I don't think that there's anything that we really could have done differently. I think we were playing our game. We had the box loaded up with people. Everybody was covered. Like you said, have at it. Take a shot. And he put his laces through it. It had a decent kind of a left to right curve away from Roofs. And I think it was moving fast enough that Roofs just didn't have a good beat on it. He was also partly unsighted, players in front of him.
Yeah, I think the sun was shining as well, quite bright as well.
Yeah, you just take it on the chin and move on. I mean, it was just, I was watching it with my wife, and even she went, "That was a good shot," and I was like, "Yeah, shut up. I don't want to talk about it." But it was, And I hated it that it came from him because he had contributed to the sending off of Ronaldo. But
Yeah, I know. That was like the kind of bitter moment, wasn't it?
yeah. But moving on to the next goal,
Yeah, no, Jonathan, before we do that, Jonathan, any comments about the goal? Any kind of criticisms, or could we have done better?
I mean, there was discussion about the fact that if he puts his hands out, but I mean, probably he thought it was coming straight on, and in that circumstance, blocking it that way puts it forward a bit farther. But I think that's the mistake, right? So maybe that's inexperience, maybe that's just, he's still a very young keeper. Like, we're not talking about a guy in his mid-20s or 30s who's been there forever. So, it's something he'll figure out and he'll get better. I have all the confidence in the world that was a one-off, and I don't think we see that one again.
He's
but,
the thing is,
he's a great keeper. Like, holy cow.
He's the steal of the transfer market, as far as I'm concerned. My God, what a deal!
£9 million.
Yeah,
and so it's just like a small minor mistake, but at the end of the day, these things do happen, and
any keeper can do it.
Yeah, any keeper can do it. I mean, you saw today, like Donnarumma, had a bit of a nightmare with the Martinelli goal, and he was like off his line, and he's like one of the world's best keepers in the world. So
wasn't the first time either.
Yeah, no, it's not the
way
first
off
time.
His line at one point, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
He was he was letting the ball come to him, and the Arsenal player was chasing him down. Anyway, that's off topic.
Yeah. Anyway, well, we'll move on then, because listen, as you mentioned before, Jonathan, like, I don't know if it was you, Jonathan, or Jesse, but you said, like, even though we went 1-0 down, you didn't think the game was over. You thought, like, we're still going to get something from the game. And it only took us, 7 minutes or 8 minutes to get back on level terms. So, Jesse, like, how was your celebration when that Isidor half volley went in?
I mean, come on, I went mad. It's just, first of all, he's my favorite player right now of the current squad. I just love his attitude, and he's so silky. He's so good. I mean, my God, what a touch he has, and what an awareness of goal. And he's just, oh my God, just the absolute all around player. I just love him to pieces. And so I'm so happy when he scores. I'm so happy that he's on this scoring run. That's 3-3 for him.
3-3,
yeah. 3 in the home, yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm thrilled, and it was a really well taken goal. He was on side, he was ready, he knew exactly where he was. Again, he just has all the attributes that I think are going to make him a legend here. If he's not, I mean, I already think he's a legend for us. I mean, he's just.
Oh yeah, and if you see his off the pitch videos he does with the club, the pizza one was brilliant. I think
that was so good.
When he says all my Maras are going to come down here, and he says you need characters like that. I mean, we've got a nice mix, haven't we? We've got the ice cool and steely faced Granit Xhaka, but then you've got Luke O'Nien and Wilson Isidor. It's just one extreme to another, isn't it? So,
very much so.
But Jonathan, obviously, after their goal went in, then we did have to come out, didn't we, and try and attack and get on the front foot, because Villa did sit back a little bit and invited us to come onto them, which was very surprising considering that we were man down. We did have a little counter. Well, we did have an attack on the left wing, but we lost the ball. And I think they had a counter-attack where Marlon went through, and then I think he got bundled over in the box. But that was the beginning of our attacking intent, and then all of a sudden we start to see Talby get on the ball. And today was the first time I really saw Talby running at defenders, and that's when the goal came, because he tried to get a shot away. He did a bit of a dribble, came inside, the shot came in, it bounced off some guy's head, bounced in the air. Granit Xhaka gets there, but it was nice to see Talby actually doing that part of the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wonder if he's been asked to kind of do the defensive side of the ball a little bit to kind of get him acclimatized to that aspect of the game first and foremost, playing in the Premier League, because that's what I always took out of it when I'm watching him. I'm like, you're not seeing him doing what we thought he'd be doing, which is being the more aggressive forward, pushing, the ball forward and getting up there until today. But largely when it comes to the defensive side, he's been very good at it. And I think that's probably either they're training him to try and have that defensive side to his game, or it's something he's already got, and they're just saying, okay, can you focus on that while we're doing this? But in this case, they need somebody to go forward on that left end. And so now they're like, okay, go ahead. And I think it's made a massive difference to his game, seeing that. I would like to see more of that. I think it shows he has the ability to really control the ball, which there was a couple of times where he was, he had two defenders around him and he was still getting through them, or at least making it hard for them to get the ball back, or he'd put it off them to get a throw in. There was just loads of times where he was just doing those little things that give you confidence that, oh yeah, this is why they got this guy. This is why they spent all that money on this dude to come in here and just basically be that holding midfielder who brings the ball up, out races as much as possible. And then if he doesn't, he's just there to make it hard for them to get it back. And you're right about one thing. Other than that one time where we kind of broke down a bit and they did get through, which then came to nothing. The only other, for the most part, we were the ones who were the aggressors for the latter half of the game, which is kind of what happened in the other games. Like if you watch most of the games, we've been very much capable of coming out late on and getting goals. And I think that's showing that and you could see our guys were exhausted as the game went on and they had to pull a bunch of them off to try and freshen up the side a bit. But it really showed just how much having a young, fast team makes a big difference, because boy, oh boy, did they ever, put paid to people who are making, aren't able to keep up or making slight mistakes because they're getting exhausted. And that's what you want this team to do. You want this team to be able to do those kind of things, because if they can do it, it's the key to staying up, which is job one, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, Jesse, it's the Xhaka Isidor combination again, isn't it? Because they did it at Brentford against Brentford, and they've done it today. I mean, I just couldn't believe how much time Granit Xhaka had just to kind of like compose himself, position himself, and guide the header to Isidor. Being out of 10 men.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been an absolute tour de force. I mean, as I felt for our players last year when they brought him in and made him captain. I was like, oh, that's got to hurt, But boy, has he ever risen to that? I mean, his leadership and his positivity on the pitch, and his his sense of awareness is now, it's just he's the complete package, and it's so exciting to have him sort of leading the ship in midfield. And to see him combining with our strikers in this way, doing exactly what he's been for other teams, putting in that pinpoint perfect cross at the exact right time. Again, his positional awareness. That's why we have him here, and it's proving great dividends, because most of our squad is still very young, and they're still sort of trying to see where they fit in this squad, and it's all very new, and he's been very cohesive for us.
Yeah, no, and you mentioned it, like obviously Dan Neil was captain last season. He got the captaincy removed, hasn't played. He made his first debut today in the Premier League, and naturally, I think he probably would sulk naturally. It's a natural reaction. It's human reaction that you've done so hard to get the Premier League, but then you kind of like get it taken away from you. I think it's natural to react like that, but I'm hoping that Dan Neil kind of like looks up and thinks, okay, I understand why. Do you know what I mean? And
Sure.
I can learn from this. I need to learn from this.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I mean, it's probably something you're wanting to talk about at some point, but this is the ruthlessness that we need, right now. We need to be able to, in order to stay where we are and build on it and become potentially a team that, I mean, I can't even say it, but plays in Europe, I mean, dare I hope for that, right? But in order to be able to create a team that can actually do that, we have to be ruthless. And we have to, unfortunately, say to the likes of Dan Neil, hey, thank you. You were amazing for us. Sometimes not so amazing, but, overall, very able. You're a great captain. But we have to be ruthless. We have to bring in somebody who is just on paper and in every way a better player.
Mm-hmm.
No offense.
No, that's the way it is. That's simply the
It's
way it
hard.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jonathan, and obviously Wilson was in the right place to get on the end of that header with a wonderful volley. I think out of the three strikers at the moment we've got, I think he's the person you would ideally want in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got the experience, he's got the ability, he's got that as so well described by Jesse, the silky skills to get you that kind of a goal. Whereas Mayender's more of a very fast blunt tool. Like he's really good at putting the ball in the right spot, but he's also kind of you have to hit him on the run. Whereas Wilson can just sit there and take it, and then suddenly out of nowhere he's right there and able to make the right play at the right time, which I think it'll be interesting to see once, because we really haven't given Broby a chance yet. It'll be interesting to see kind of what he is, but he looks like he's another, the big guy you put up front to kind of knock the ball down and then shoot.
Yeah.
But it's hard to know quite yet. One thing I will say real quick, going back to that last discussion, is that I was listening to the Villa fans talking about their team. And the one thing I've realized is that what our team decided to do is not be precious. And I think it's going to be difficult for fans to not be precious with players that they like and to say, oh, but this guy's, he's done all this for the team and he's been that for the team. But you have to be militant and say, okay, if we're getting forward at this point with our situation, we have to be willing to move on from that player, even if we like him. Maybe Luke 09 doesn't even play this year.
But it's like
for the
Patrick
team.
Roberts, you know what I mean? Patrick Roberts is one example.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Dan Neal, I think his contract issues may be down to the fact that he's looking at it and going, I might not get on the field for anything other than these kind of situations. And it's like, well, that's no good for me. And I totally get it. But at the same time, if I'm the team, I'm going, you're a great backup that we might bring on occasionally.
Yeah.
And they have to be like that. They absolutely 100% have to be. And I think it'll be hard, but I think for a fan base, we've got to think that way too. I mean, right now we're not thinking that way. We're all happy with the situation, but you know what I mean? Like when it comes down to like, look at Villa where they were relegated, they came back up, they built their team. And then it's like, they didn't want to get rid of guys. And so they hung on to them maybe a little too long. And that was in part because the fans didn't want to get rid of guys and they wanted to hold on to them. And you kind of sit there and go,
yeah.
Now you're going to have to just be militant and say, nope, that guy's gone. He might be 26. He might be really good, but we need the 50 million he's going to give us to move on with the team and get 4 more guys just like him.
Yeah, and now now they have to get rid of guys because of the PSR.
Yeah, exactly.
Restrictions and regulations like they.
Yeah. And it's because they were holding on to them to try and get to the Champions League, to stay up and be a 6th place team, which that's fine. But if you don't have the income coming in to match that ambition, then this is what you run into. You run into a position where you can't sell, you can't buy, you can't do anything. And yet you need to sell in order to buy. And they end up doing those weird trades, if you want to call them that.
Yeah.
To try and make it so they can purchase anybody. And I just Villa's kind of a bit, like, I'm not saying there's anything particularly wrong with the team. I think they'll be fine. But I think they're a bit of a cautionary tale of when you get a little bit, when things go really quickly and you think, oh, well, no, we can hold on to these guys. And then all of a sudden you're dealing not only with our, not even with Premier League's version of PSR, but you're also dealing with Europe's version of PSR, which is even more restrictive. And now you've got to match that. And that's what's going to clobber you. Like, you think of what we got away with this year. I don't think we get away with that if we were in the championship or the Champions League. Sorry, not championship, wrong place.
Yeah. No, but totally right. Right then. So Jesse, on the 80th minute, Regis decides to make some more subs. Mayenda, Masuaku, Gertruda, as we call them. I think Lebris kind of content for a point at that point. Do you know what you think?
Yeah. And I didn't really see a huge shift in our shape or how we were playing when they came on. They were there to see the game out. And that was pleasant because there have been times in the past with him where maybe it was just because we had a shortfall in terms of the players on the bench, but I didn't see any fall off in terms of how we were holding the ball, how we were still pressurizing them. We were still pushing when we could, with 10. So they felt like even if they weren't maybe like for like replacements, we were still keeping the mission clear and keeping our shape, and that was good. I look forward to seeing those players more because I'm still learning the names. I'm still trying to like, oh wow, who is that? And that's hard. But I was looking at our bench and I was like, my God, I mean, just in 1 year's time, we have some serious quality. We actually have a deep bench now.
Yep.
And that feels really, really, really encouraging.
Yeah, and the fact that like Habib Diarra and obviously Reinildo, they're going to be missing for a couple of weeks. You think, well, okay, we've got Masuaku who can fit in there. We can go 3 at the back. We can put Dan Neil or Chris Rigg or whoever. You know what I mean? So we have got options.
Yeah, we have Robbie sitting there on the bench as well, and he apparently he comes with a lot of fanfare, and so hopefully he'll come good. So yeah. By the way, I loved the fast blunt tool description of Mayenda. That's perfect. That is perfect. It's exactly right. He is a fast blunt tool.
He certainly is.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, the end of the game then, Jonathan. I mean, we did have a couple of squeaky bum time, didn't we, at the end of the game? Because they did have a couple of good chances, didn't they?
Yeah, they were coming in, and it was, they were pushing to get that extra, and like you say, you see it kind of break down. You're like, oh, but things kind of evened out because they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, to put it bluntly, because there was a couple of those ones that went sky, and
there was an offside as well.
Yeah, there was the offside. Like they were putting pressure, but it wasn't. I don't think it was as organized as maybe they should be at that situation. But
it didn't feel in the way that we sort of, it didn't feel like a traditional parking of the bus in the way.
No. I think that was maybe why they didn't get as more aggressive than they did, because they were worried that we would suddenly come at them.
Well, there were a couple of times when Mayenda picked up the ball and had a run, didn't he? But I mean, he just didn't have the legs on Mings, so you could see that they were a bit nervous about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's why their coach got so upset at the end, right? And went stalking off before the game was even over, which I thought was hilarious.
Never seen that in my life.
No, it's like, are you looking to get fired? Is that?
I thought
is there pressure on you or what?
when the match started, I thought, this game will be kind of a referendum on his job, honestly, because I think if they should be taking it to us in a way that they absolutely didn't from the start. And I thought, if Emery wants to keep his job, he's got to get a win here.
Well, I know, but it's so unlike Unai Emery, because he's like the most polite football manager you can ever meet, because every time there's the interviews, he always says, first of all, good afternoon.
Yeah, I know.
And all of a sudden, at the end of the game, he's pissing off down the tunnel before the match is finished, and he's shaking hands with Labrise. Like, it's very kind of like Simeone or Mourinho, isn't it? That
it makes me wonder, because there's been a lot of talk about Man U and that game that we're playing with them in a couple of weeks, in that could also be referendum time for him.
Yeah,
and that would be funny if we ended up getting him fired as well.
Well, you hope it. Well, I mean,
I can't wait.
Paving on the tracks, aren't they, Man United?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That'll be a very different game. But at the same time, it will be really interesting to see if they can handle what we'll throw at them, which I would never have said a year ago or even 6 months ago.
Me neither. And
now it's like, I'm looking forward to that. It's not Liverpool. If it was Liverpool, I'd be worried. If it was, that sort of situation, then it'd be like, okay, well, if we can grab anything out of this, it's great. But I think the way Man U plays, I'm not worried.
I think against any team, we'll be able to hold our own.
Yeah.
Unless we concede a couple of goals quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we concede one, we just got to kind of like keep calm and stay composed and compact. If you lose 2 goals in quick succession, I think that you just crumble naturally. And I think,
and that's what happened in Burnley. I mean, if you look at what happened in Burnley, it was because we were trying to get back in the game, and that's when they exposed us.
Yeah,
and good teams will do that. And I wouldn't necessarily say Burnley's a bad team, but if you compare them to like the upper half of the table, they're not there. So yeah, if you do that against especially an Arsenal or a Liverpool, good luck. It's probably over.
Yeah, I think we have to. I mean, going into this season, I was saying to people, I fully expect to get thumped a few times, but
Yeah.
I also fully expect to surprise some big teams a few times, because
100%.
especially now, especially
Yeah.
having seen how well we're playing together, I
Mhm.
fully expect us to
Well,
take a couple of scalps from some of the top 4 or 5 teams, because I think they won't know what hit them, honestly.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think back, like, and I know for the younger people who are watching Sunderland, they might not remember this, but I mean, if you go back to like '05, '07, '09, or even '99 when I started watching, and the one thing our team did very well was we made certain teams that thought they were really good, and we made them look really silly.
Mm-hmm.
Like we used to beat Chelsea pretty frequently, which was
Yeah.
weird because they should have thumped us, but we used to beat them even when we were relegation contenders.
That 4-1 game with the Kevin Phillips goal, I was there.
Yep.
mate. I
Ooh,
was there.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh man.
oh wow.
happy
I-
days.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's the thing. If you can get those kind of wins that surprise people, then all of a sudden you're not talking about relegation, you're talking about mid-table,
Yep.
which we'd kill for that.
Absolutely, yeah. Right, I was going to say something else, but I can't remember what I was going to say now. But anyway, listen, we will go to the comments of post-match. Jesse, I'll give you Labrese's comments first. He says we had two different parts in the game. I think we started well at 11 against 11. We were in our game plan, and the red card changed the dynamic of the game, but we stayed composed. It became a different game with a low block, and it was clear that our main chances would come from set pieces, as we mentioned before. I think especially for the first 20 minutes of the second half, we were well managed. The red card was possible. It was, I think, a bad reaction, but in the end, we respect the decision. Yeah, I think Telenoff could have been a yellow card, maybe. We were ready because we've worked hard in this deep block before. No one in the Premier League will have to manage this part of the game properly. Now, I found this very interesting, Jesse, because it was one of my frustrations last year, and yours as well, and Jonathan, I know you as well, and many fans, that we changed our style from playing a high press at the start of the season last season to this kind of low block. And obviously, it was all in preparation for this moment.
Yeah.
So it is justified, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it is. I mean, I'm happy to say I was wrong. I'm happy to admit I was wrong. I was very frustrated with how we were schizophrenic sometimes in how we would play. We would start a match so brightly, and when we start the high press, and we were again just chasing every ball down, and then all of a sudden we'd just sit back and invite pressure on the hopes that we would get a break and then catch them on the break. But it rarely happened towards that latter half of the season when we sort of slumped into the playoffs. But it's working now.
But obviously, a lot of thought process has gone into this, and thinking like, okay, listen, all the teams that come up and play the same way they did in the Championship, on the front foot, that gets them 100 points and lots of goals, ends up seeing them come straight back down in the Premier League because they just can't do that. So he said, we're going to do it this way. And obviously, I think like we got promoted, thankfully. But do you think they looked at some of the players, Jonathan, and said, okay, listen, we've got good players, but we need better players if we want to play this certain style of play?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think if you think back again, going back to last year, one of the biggest frustrations we talked about last season was the fact that Labrise was very hesitant to bring on people, right? Like he would make switches, but he would do it like at the 75-minute mark or the 80-minute mark. He wouldn't do it at like the 65-minute mark or the 70-minute mark, where it would be much more impactful. And I think that was because of his lack of trust on his backup squad to actually be able to handle what he was asking of the starters. But I think also it was exposing us because our starters were tiring out, especially as the season carried on, and may have been the culprit as well. That and some of the injuries, to be fair, was probably the large culprit and why we were so bad at the tail end of the season. The 5 straight defeats and all that rubbish all kind of come out of that swirling of not quite having, I think, what he was hoping. And I think that the funny part is in the Championship, you're absolutely right. I think the aggressive style that we had at the beginning is how you win in the Championship, but it's how you lose in the Premier League. and you definitely have to switch when you get back up. And I think that's the fundamental issue that I think all promoted teams have, is that they're like, well, this is what worked, so it'll work. And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. You can't play tiki-taka possession football when you're dealing with teams that can just rip it away from you in 2 seconds and be in your net, and that's the Southamptons, the Chelsea, the Leicesters, and that's kind of what they ran into last year, and it was a buzzsaw against them. So, to my mind, I think you're right. I think at the end of the day, that's what Lebris wanted, probably because of his experience in the French league and how it was played there, and and trying to deal with it. And yeah, it's not the Premier League, but it still has a similar style. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where he came with that.
Yeah. So anyway, he goes on to say it was good practice today with 10 men, 5-3-1, staying organised, managing triangles and crosses, which I think was very, very good, like disciplined. On set pieces, we know we have threats from throws or corner kicks, and we were able to score a goal. I think we've discussed that as well, yeah. It's a really good experience, especially here in Sunderland, because we have the players, we have the squad, but we also have our fans, our stadium, and the energy. We were 10 men, but in fact, we were 11 with this crowd. Jesse, I mean, I think Sunderland fans were very, very loyal. We're very, very noisy. But my little criticism would be like, at times we do go missing.
Yeah, we get soft. I mean, it's true, I think, anywhere. But I think when we know the team needs a lift, we're able to provide it. There's no question that, you look at our traveling support, what we're 6th or 9th best in the nation every year, even in years when we're in League One. This is across all divisions, right? There aren't better fans. There aren't better supporters in the nation. And I think they know, especially if the players are really getting stuck in, if they're really running hard, if they're, if Hume, makes one of his, he made one today. He made one of his tackles that just absolutely floored their defender, or their forward rather.
Yeah.
The crowd lets them know it. And I don't think there's anything like playing at the Stadium of Light, honestly.
I think it could be better.
Yes,
I think it could be better.
It could be better, but I like that it, it's organic. I don't know how you.
I think
I would hate for them to institute anything that they do over here in the States, which are just, these
artificial,
drums and megaphones. Like, no, I'm not.
Well, even worse, organs and big screens telling everybody to clap. Oh, it's awful. Yeah, it's awful. Yeah, I mean, things are going to quiet down at times, but it's not as bad as like.
But it's just like when we talk about like making the Stadium of Light a fortress. I mean, I go back to the period when the Stadium of Light first opened in the late 90s. That good period on the Reed with Phillips and Quinn. I remember that teams used to really hate coming to Sunderland because of the hostile atmosphere. Like the fans made it. And I think that's the part of the atmosphere that we're missing. I think we've got the support behind the lads, but I think we also need to make it very hostile because, like one comparison, I live in Bilbao, and the Athletic Club Bilbao fans, I think that they get very, very well balanced between supporting their team, but also like making the atmosphere very hostile. I mean, I've been to San Mamés a couple of times against Barcelona and supporting Athletic, and even I've been intimidated, and I'm supporting them. Like I'm like shitting, I'm anxious. So I think that's the
how do they do it? I mean, how do you instill that? I would love it too.
It's basically like every time the opposition player gets the ball, boo, whistle, I don't know, like jeering, and then anytime it's like a contentious decision, like loud noises, it's just like a cauldron of noise. And I think if we used to have that in the early days of the Stadium of Light, I think if we could
on the Roker Road too.
Yeah. But I think if we could get that back as well, that's how you make the Stadium a fortress, by having both the support for the lads, but also making the opposition players feel uncomfortable. So I think that's the kind of missing.
I agree. I think it would be lovely, and I don't know what's happened. If people have gotten more polite, if they're on their phones, if they're just.
I think partially it's probably the increase in price has a little bit to do with it. because
But have ticket prices gone up that much? I thought they kept them relatively
well, and then demand, right? So you have the
reasonable,
combination
right?
of demand and that. I think there's a combination there, but I mean, you're starting to see it's less, and this is less about Sunderland and more just in general. I think in the Premier League, there's much more. Uh, like I said, I noticed it yesterday at Brighton. I didn't notice them being very loud. I thought they were only loud when specific incidents happened, and it was dead quiet otherwise.
Arsenal was quiet. Arsenal was
Yeah,
quiet. That Arsenal
yeah.
City game today.
I just think it might be a new English thing. It might be the way English fan bases are, and I would, I come from Canada. Our hockey teams, when we watch them, I've noticed this problem as well. Usually during regular season, teams, the fan bases are very quiet unless something specific is going on. It only gets outrageous when during the playoffs or during a very specific incident. I think Newcastle will be a whole different story, though. I think when Newcastle's there, that'll be very different.
Yeah,
I know. But but yeah, you're playing a team from south of London. I'm not sure it's going to be as gripping or as militant. The most booing I heard was over, and I can't remember the player's name, the one who got kicked and got the red.
Cash.
Yeah,
Matty
Cash.
Cash.
Yeah,
he scored too, but he also thankfully Isidor took the ball off of his feet to score our equalizer.
yeah, he was defending.
Involved in all three.
Oh God,
he was involved in all three.
But anyway, listen. So we'll wrap up with Labrice's comments. He says, "We're happy to be here, but at the same time, we have to be competitive. And I think we showed good character. Defending deep for a long period is really important because if you can master this phase, you can travel safely. It's always a reset, but at the same time, we can create foundations through these experiences. And this one was really important. And I agree. No, Jesse, I think like going out to 10 men, I think that's the first time this season we've been out to 10 men, isn't it? So, it's like good experience with the players. Like they have that ability to stay in games.
I like the fact that he's also making a point of saying that this is something we can all learn from, right? Doesn't he have a degree in sports psychology in addition to his coaching licenses and everything? And so I think that he's equally as interested in finding ways for the players to grow together, learn from experiences that they have. I was thinking about this as I was watching the City Arsenal game too, and just thinking, I think he's going to be the type of coach who's going to be able to sit down with the players and say, yeah, Holland is very, very intimidating and very good, but he takes a shit too. And it's okay. Like he's just a human being, and you don't have to be overawed by anybody that you come up against. That we are all capable of greatness. And I think that he's going to be able to instill that kind of belief in our team. And so far, I think he's done so. He's done a fucking great job at just creating a good team culture. You can see that. I watched the little YouTube videos, the training videos, just to sort of see like, what is it like? What is it like behind the scenes? What kind of impact is he making? And they all look like they're having a good time in ways that in past teams that we've had, I didn't feel that way. I was sort of dreading coming back to the Premiership to some degree because I didn't look forward to the days of like El Hadji Diouf and these journeyman twats who would come up, take a paycheck, and not really put in their all. But that hasn't been the case looking at this squad, and I think a lot of that's down to his leadership.
Yeah,
just let me add one extra thing to that. I remember they were talking to him I think at the beginning of the summer when they were starting to bring in the raft of French players or French-based players. And one of the things that he made a comment of, the very first thing that they did was they said, you have to speak English. And you can't be sitting there talking in French on the pitch. You can't do that. You must all speak English because we're in England. To me, that's a great notion of saying, hey, this is how we'll be in it together because we're not getting into a clique of like, here's this language group and that language group. And, the Spanish players are over here and the French players are over there. And, so it's a way to avoid that kind of thing happening. And it was such a great example of that it really stood out to me. And I remember it just because of that.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I just remember
No,
reading.
gents, well, listen, we're going to take another quick break because you've opened a can of worms there, and I think there's plenty more to discuss, and we've only got like 3 minutes of this Zoom left, so we're going to take a very, very, very quick break, and we'll be back again for part 3. Wow.
Hello, my name is Gabri. I'm from Sarnico, Italy, and I support Sunderland.
Welcome back for part 3, and Jesse's chomping at the bit to get in his input with Régis Lebris and his man management styles. So we were talking there about how he's brought the team together, and he keeps very grounded. Jesse, go on. You want first dibs in there?
Well, I just don't. Yeah, you were saying that you don't know that he necessarily gets involved in the personal lives of the players, and I think that's probably true. But I also think that he's presented himself as an approachable person who can help them through anything that they need help with. But he's also allowed the other coaches to sort of handle a lot of the coaching and everything. I read a long time ago that the teams that have the most interpersonal bonds, the teams with the most friendships maybe we've talked about this in the past, tend to be the most successful. If you look at successful teams of the past, championship winners, premiership winners, I think it was Desmond Morris. He was a sociologist rather, who did a study of this in a book that he wrote about football. And he talks about how the teams that had the strongest bonds off the pitch were the ones that were the most successful. And so I think he's created a climate where, like you said, okay, English will be our lingua franca, which is ironic. But that will be our shared language here. Everybody will speak it when we're on the pitch so that we're all speaking the same language. We are going to eliminate those cliques that Jonathan was talking about, or at least discourage them, and encourage those players to really make friendships, because I think that is what drives teams to success. And I think he knows that.
Yeah. No, my point came because I've heard managers in the past, especially people like Lee Johnson and Sam Allardyce, where they would take an active kind of role in the personal lives of players, like basically asking them, is everything okay at home? And I don't think Lebris comes across as that type of person, does he, Jonathan? He kind of basically, if you have a problem, you can come to me, but I'm not going to go digging. I think, for example, my role as the head coach on the pitch, and your life away from the pitch, you need to kind of conduct yourself, and I'm going to do my own thing as well. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
It could be, and what we don't know and can't really see because we're not there for training and all that is, what is the role of the assistant coach? Is that what he does, or is that more something that, say, Speakman or somebody might be in a higher role, might have some more of that. So they maybe still be getting that, but from different people. The thing I've seen with Lebris that kind of stands out to me is he seems very cerebral, and very much driven by that mental capacity of examining a problem and examining, how to get the best out of players. So I think in a way, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's not that he's I don't really care unless there's a problem. But at the same time, I think it's how can I make this work? How do I examine this and find a solution? What's the best way to get the best in this circumstance? And I really feel like that's where his strength is, and maybe the balance is you have other people who do the other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then that way you're not necessarily and maybe it's better that way, because then the players don't feel obligated to tell their manager or coach, all this stuff, but they can go to the assistant coach who isn't directly in charge of whether they get hired, fired, whatever, and say, hey, I'm having problems off field that's causing problems on field. This is kind of why, blah, 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 blah. And it's kind of like having that other person you can talk to who isn't necessarily in it. And again, no idea if that's what's going on, but that's one of the things I do wonder about, is having seen other teams. There's always somebody that you can go to and talk about these kind of things. There's never not anybody. But I think at the same time, it may be that Lebris's way of managing things is to say, I need a separation from the players a bit. And some managers are like that. They don't want to be in the business of their players because they don't feel it's their place, or B, they see it from the aspect of I'm much more like in a managerial role in the literal term. And so it's not my position to be going into the lower end of everything and getting knee deep into the, everybody's lives. And, so maybe everybody has different ways of dealing with it,
But I think he also has a certain, because he has this degree in sports psychology, I think he probably does work into his coaching what he's learned. And I think so he probably puts into place resources for the players that are needed, so that should they need somebody to talk to, or so should they be dealing with something, that they will have the resources available to them. I get the sense that he's kind of shy, honestly. I that he's very reserved. And I still want the fans to sing "Cheer Up, Reed Labrise," because I think it'd be a fitting song for him, because he always looks so fucking miserable unless we score, But yeah, I get the sense that he's a very cool, collected individual who has set up all of the necessaries for the players to thrive, and that. And to your point, I think, yes, he's extremely cerebral, and I think he's also extremely detail oriented. And so when he comes to a coaching session or a team meeting, that's going to be well conducted. It's not going to be, from the hip. He's really going to have a sense of, okay, this is what we're going to discuss. This is how we're going to go forward.
Yeah, I also get the feeling that he's a bit awkward for journalists, because he doesn't like to give much away, does he not?
No.
Yeah, like they'll ask him a question with like, "Do you think?" and he'll just say, "We'll see. I don't know."
Yeah.
The one thing that they said today, which I thought was interesting, among other things that they made observations about, was they were talking about the two managers on the side, and how Aston Villa's coach was very expressive and jumping up and down and making motions everywhere, and Labrise was just holding his arms, standing there, and unless he had something specific he had to say, didn't move. And I think that's the difference. I think that's what you see in him, is he's very much
he's a thinker.
Trying to think of a good example. Maybe Arsene Wenger is a good example of somebody.
I literally
like that.
literally just was thinking that he's very inscrutable.
Yep.
He's passionate when we score. He doesn't tend to lose his temper terribly if somebody does something wrong, or if a call goes against us.
Not presently easily seen, no, but you can kind of tell sometimes when he's pissed off.
Yeah, but his pissed off face isn't very different from his resting face.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Usually it's more like, sorry to derive into this one, but it's more when they come off and he doesn't like even bother to shake their hand.
Yeah.
That's how you know.
Yeah, it does seem that way. But
no, but he doesn't seem to get too high, neither too low. And I think he always keeps the players grounded, because you'll get a lot of journalists who they'll single out a player and say like, "Oh, this player had a great performance last season," but Labrise will kind of like peg him down. You know what I mean? He said, "Yeah, he was good last week, but he's got to do it for the whole season." And the comments he made pre-match in the interview pre-match earlier this week, he talked about, for example, like Trey Hume, and he was saying, for example, like Trey is kind of lucky that we didn't get a player in his position earlier on, and that he started the season, took his chance, and he's still in there. So he was kind of hinting that Trey Hume could have been out the team as well.
Oh, I think that's absolutely the case. I think
everybody was up for grabs.
Yeah. I got the impression from the way they were looking in the transfer market that it was very much, if we need somebody to do that job, we're not going to hold off just because so and so's a pretty good replacement player. In fact, maybe that's better to have two of them.
Yeah.
So
injuries happen.
Yep.
Thankfully he's developing into a world-class right back. I love him. I think he's stepping up. I mean, it's not for nothing. He's the only player other than Isidor and Maenda, really, right? And Ballard, who have made the step. And he's holding his place. I didn't think he was all that great last week, but this week he really, I thought he was outstanding.
Yeah, and well, Labrise also talked about Enzo Lafay and that he's had like a kind of one-to-one chat with him about how he sees him fitting in because it seems that Lafay was a bit upset that he didn't start the season, but he just said like, "Listen, I know you, I know what you can do. It's a team game. I trust you." And I think that's the key word, isn't it, Jonathan? Trust. He needs to trust these players. And last year he had this kind of core players that he trusted, and this season Lafay had to wait, but took his chance when he came in, and he's still in there. So I think Labrie is a fair manager. Like if you do get your chance and you take your chance, you'll stay in the team. It's a bit like
Yeah.
Isidor now, isn't it? My end to start the season, Isidor would have been frustrated, but Isidor came on. He scored 3 in 3 home games, so you get to keep your place. He also mentioned about Talby because like the journalist, I think it was like Keith Downey from Sky Sports, was like saying that some of the fans were a bit frustrated with Talby. And he was just saying, listen, he's a new guy. He's 20, 21-year-old, new country.
Nice.
It's a new team. Like, he hasn't done a lot wrong. Like, it's just maybe you don't notice him as much as you would with Patrick Roberts, but he still had solid games. And he's like, we've got to give these players time and patience.
Absolutely. I think that's, and I mean, going back to what are the expectations that the management have given that player? You know, like if in Talby's case, yeah, we're all like, well, shouldn't he be bombing down the right? He's not controlling the ball, blah, 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 blah. You know, all the things that we've heard from various social media sites and people. I think but that may not be what he's been asked to do by the team. And I think that's the difference. And that may be why he's getting maybe a bit more rope to, if you want to put that perspective into it, than say somebody else. Because I know people were frustrated with him, but at the same time, it was like, has he made mistakes? I mean, maybe, but I haven't noticed him being the cause of stuff, which would be obvious examples. Like I know I was pretty hard on Patrick Roberts last year, but because he was great going forward, but it was his defensive skills that were questionable to me. And that's the thing with Talby, is it almost looks like he was being told to be defensive and hold up and be better at that end of it. And then he got released, and suddenly we saw this guy who's able to carry the ball and show opportunity and get in there and be somebody else. And so it's hard to kind of sit there and pick it. And like, how can you be upset at this coaching group who's done what they've done so far? We've got 8 points, guys. Like, hello, we would have bitten people's legs off to have that before December. Now we've got it before October.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, you know, if you're
statistically, isn't it 11 that we need?
Yep.
That if you hit 11 by
no, it was 8 points, wasn't it? After 5 games, they said that no team has ever been relegated.
Well, the other one I've seen is 11 points by the end of October.
Yeah.
Which I mean, we could easily do that with the next game if we got to win.
Yeah.
So,
well,
you know what's interesting? You know what's interesting is this is a team that, you know, you're mentioning the comparison between Talby and Roberts, and you know, Roberts was frustrating. Obviously, he had moments of absolute brilliance in him. He showed that time and time again. But then he also would, you know, and I liked him because he would pull, you know, 2 or 3 defenders off with him, and then, you know, but then sometimes his attacking would come to nothing, and that was frustrating. But one of the things about this new lineup, this new team, is that because we have so many standouts in this group that I'm not noticing the 1 or 2 real standouts game to game to game. I'm noticing players who are having a particularly good game above everybody else, but I'm not noticing like 1 or 2 real standouts and then a bunch of really bang average players who are kind of like pulling their weight and doing all right. I'm also not noticing a whole lot of players who are really, really stinking it, you know? So the balance of the team, the strength of the team, the talent has risen so much that I'm not noticing these standout performances to the degree that I was last season. Does that make?
Yeah, no, perfect, makes perfect sense. And on that note, Jonathan, pick a man in the match.
No.
Boy, I have to say, to my mind, and I'm going to pick somebody who I think is a little obscure for some people, not obscure in name, but is Granit Xhaka, because the one thing you hear with him, which I was going to mention this earlier, but kind of forgot, is you always hear him. like in the match, he's always yelling, he's always encouraging, he's always pointing, go here, do that, da, da, da. And I think that his leadership has been a real powerful part of the reason why we've done so well, because he's taking a young group, especially in the midfield, and being able to form them into something just because he's able to command them through his understanding of the game and his experience being in this league before, which so few people had at this point. So for me, yeah, I mean, it's a easy one to choose from, and it's a weird one to choose from in some respects. But if you think about the goals that we had, the goal that we had, also the production that we had up front, some of it came out of him specifically, and so he's the one I pick. Although there's others, it's been a lot easier to pick specific players through this year because at times it's like, well, yeah, it's got to be, Bruce was like basically the reason why we beat Brentford, but at the same time, there has been games where it's not been so easy because you're like, no, actually, the whole team's doing really well. And this is one of them. Like, it's hard to pick somebody out. There's a couple of other mentions I've heard, and the defense as a whole did really well. When Ballard came on, he did really well. Like, this is just me picking out the easiest one.
No, but I think like you made a good point there. I think Xhaka now, captain of Sunderland, gets man of the match today. But also, if you look at the Xhaka, captain of Arsenal, about 5, 6, 7 years ago, whenever it was when he played for Arsenal, I think he loses his temper. Like going out to 10 men, going a goal down. I don't think he has the same kind of composure and just like lack of calmness, isn't it? Like calmness. So I think, yeah, it's a good shout. Jesse, your man of the match.
I mean, Jonathan, I completely agree with you. But I'd say Mukiele. Nardi was great. I think given the fact that we were down to 10, he commanded the back line to perfection. I don't think he put a step wrong. He's also, his throw-ins have been key. They led to our goal. I mean, he's huge. I don't see. He's an undroppable player for us now. And he's only been in there for what? How many games now? 3?
Yeah,
Something like that.
3,
Yeah, 3 or 4.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's a hell of an impact to make that quickly. And now he's somebody you can't put the team sheet out without him on it. And so he's my man of the match. But I completely echo what you're saying about Xhaka. I mean, he's made a huge impact. And yeah, he always does. He'd be the man of the season so far for me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
over
the first games that we've had.
I'm watching Mukiele in every single match we play. And I'm thinking, how the hell have we got this player from other clubs playing European football? Because he just looks head and shoulders above everyone. Like the calmness and the aggression, positioning. He's just absolutely solid as a rock, isn't he? I mean, he's like basically John Mensah, but can stay fit, isn't he?
Yeah. He's extraordinary. I'm pinching myself about a lot of players that we have. I mean, he's definitely one of the standouts.
Yeah, I mean,
we see him over the course of this season.
We could also highlight Noah Siddiqui again. He was just like full of running. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen like post-match the social media feed. So Sunderland AFC posted a picture of Noah Siddiqui like getting stretched for cramp by Mings, and then Noah Siddiqui's put in the comments, "I wasn't really injured. I was just buying time."
Yes.
So yeah, we love it. We love it. But yeah, I'm also listen. I'm going to give a special mention to Wilson as well because. Like a lot of the time he's feeding on scraps, but just kind of stay in the game. You know what I mean? Not to get frustrated. And I think at times last season you might have seen that Wilson get frustrated because he's not really getting to the game. But you got to stay alert, haven't you? And when that chance does come, and so I think a special shout goes to Wilson or Jonathan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he would have been my other option other than the ones that have been mentioned already. Because I think anytime you have somebody who can go forward and get goals when you're down to 10 men is a treasurable thing to have.
Yeah.
I think he's winning more headers. I think he's winning more headers, Jesse, this year as well, isn't he? For sure.
Yeah. He does seem to be, and he didn't stop running. He was running down every time the keeper had the ball. He was running up to him. He was making things difficult. He didn't appear to tire at all the entire time he was playing. I know they pulled him off, but yeah, I mean. my favorite player. So I'm not going to disagree. I'm not going to disagree.
We want you to next time on the podcast come with a corner flag and a Wilson shirt.
Yeah, just standing there on the flag like he does. Oh, he's so good.
Anyway, listen. So it's the end of week 5 in the Premier League. We've got 8 points. We are 7th place, joint 7th, 6th with Chelsea. Next week, Jonathan. I know it's baffling, isn't it?
That's just amazing. I cannot believe it.
And I saw a Burnley fan saying like Sunderland fans are getting ahead of themselves. I was like, no, we're not. We're just like we're enjoying the moment. Like
we're just happy. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw the news about the Sunderland fan Big Davy, who does the Total Sport. And like as we said, like let's get carried away, man. If you can't get carried away at moments like this, then why do we even bother? So I think
exactly.
It sums it up, and we're not getting ahead of ourselves. We know that we've got a tough season, but we know that we've spent a lot of money and we're going to give it a bloody good go.
Yeah, I'm glad we are, and we deserve it.
Yeah,
we fucking deserve it.
They're just mad because they're 17th. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. And they're playing shit football as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Right then. So Jesse, next match we've got Nottingham Forest away next Saturday. It's the late kickoff, so you got a few more hours in bed. They've just changed their coach. They've got Big Ange, but they're a kind of a strange team, aren't they? And really, because they've got some good players, but I don't think they really know what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I think our chances are good, but again, that's a tough place to go for an away game. But yeah, it's this at this level. I think any game is ours for the taking. I think it's barring maybe like Jonathan said, barring maybe Liverpool. But I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I believe we can do it. I believe that we can go and give our all, even to places like that. And yeah, Forest, look, they've got a long tradition. They got a great fan base. They should be in the Premiership like we should. So it'll be a good match for sure. I think if we can, I think we get a draw, that's a great result.
Do you know, you reminded me of Kevin McAllister in Home Alone there when he says, "I'm not afraid anymore."
I'm not afraid anymore.
Anyway, yeah, I agree with that. Jonathan, how do you see the game next weekend? I think I'm not confident we're going to win every game, but I'm confident we're not going to lose every game. I go into the match thinking we've got a chance.
That's it.
Yeah. If you think about, when we got promoted, we were kind of like, oh wow, this is exciting, and it'll be fun to play at these places. And then it was like, oh, we'll scramble a few points here, a few points there. We'll be lucky if we do this, lucky if we do that. And this is the first time, I think, as we've gone into September, the more and more I'm kind of like, no, actually, I'm not afraid of these teams like I might have been. Like Nottingham Forest is going through upheaval. Like they've got a different coach with a different strategy with totally opposite tactics of what they were playing. And so will that jibe with that team? We'll see. And so we're catching them early. So maybe it'll work. Who knows?
Sometimes it's a bad time to play a team like that, though. Because
Absolutely.
Everybody wants to be proving themselves, and sometimes teams, step up. These are professional footballers, but they're also facing a team, I think, that right now is riding high on optimism. I think we feel really good about how we play. We're playing pretty beautifully.
Yeah,
a lot of fluidity, and I think if we can, go there unafraid, like you said, we can do it.
Yeah, and I mean, my only fear in right now when it comes to Sunderland is going to be December, early January. That's going to be where we're going to see whether or not how well we'll do, because that's when we'll lose a few players and we'll have to deal with that. And
the big guns and the big games.
Yep. And then we're dealing with the big guys, and that's probably when we'll get the 5-1s and a few of those ugly games where we're all kind of, oops.
but I think hopefully, we're all eyes wide open here. I think,
exactly.
We all, I think, went into this season saying, wow, if we can finish 16th,
that'd be great.
That will be success.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's a supporter out there who's like expecting us to maintain 7th place for the rest of the season. And so hopefully our supporters will stay positive and not get on a player or, single out a player as a new boo boy, or, and we'll be able to weather those rough.
Yeah. Yeah. And to add to that, I think that's the difference between us and the Burnley fans, or maybe even the Leeds fans, in the fact that we came in. This was sort of an unexpected delight. You know, we weren't sure we were going to do well. I was very negative going into the playoffs because of how poorly we'd played, so I was assuming we'd just lose as always. And instead we win, and now we're here, and it's like, oh, this is almost a bonus. So the fact that we're at a point where we've spent enough money that we can say, yeah, I think there's a good chance we could stay up, is a bonus. So yeah, are we kind of riding high right now? Sure. Will we have points where we're going to be less riding high? Yes. But I think everybody's very, very cognizant of the fact that we're not going to be fighting for European places. We're probably not going to be fighting for 10th.
I don't know. Listen, Jesse, Jonathan, like I predicted 15th, but I'm secretly wishful thinking that we're going to finish.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, I'd be okay with the Conference League. Give me a chance.
I just want to stay up. I want to stay
exactly.
up and continue to build. But yeah, anything else is gravy.
Absolutely. 100%. It would be it would be amazing.
It'd be extraordinary because, like you said, nobody expected us to go up. I didn't expect us to go up, and I certainly didn't expect us to go up and then spend like we have, and actually say, "Okay, we're here. Let's fucking go." You know, that I did not expect, and that has been just us. It's an odd feeling. That's a weird feeling.
Years of planning, and the plan is coming to fruition, isn't it? Yeah. Right, we're going to wrap it up, though. Jesse, we have to make a reference to your lovely T-shirt there because it is Seb. Could be many references, could be the handsome Seb Larson, but we all know it's because of the ready-to-go Sunderland message board forum, which is if something is Seb, it basically means that it's already been told about 5 days ago. It's already been discussed. Or Seb or Sophie Ellis-Bextor, murder on Zidane's floor.
On Zidane's floor. And then what was great was people stopped saying Seb, and then they started writing Larson instead of Seb. So if somebody was announcing
coming in was like totally baffled.
Oh, that confused the hell out of me.
Many steps away, so I loved that. I had to get a shirt.
Brilliant. Right, anyway, Jesse, Jonathan, thank you for coming on the podcast again. It's been great having you. Look forward to having you on in the future. Enjoy the rest of your day, because it's like, early afternoon for you guys now? For me, it's like 9:45 at night, so got to put the kids to bed and everything. So anyway, listen, so have a nice rest of the weekend, and how are the lads?
You too. How are the lads? Thanks.
Indeed.